Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here. I'm Carol Kauffman, the founder of the Institute of Coaching with Margaret Moore and Susan David. And I am delighted to be here with Daniella Freeman, who is responsible for leadership development at Google for their global business leadership organization, blah, 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 and is basically working with and helping about 3,000 managers. So the work she's doing at individual, but also at scale. And she's going to walk us through some ways to use AI. So this is AI for us. So Daniela, want to just launch it?
Thank you so much for having me, Carol. It's an absolute pleasure. Yes, I'm excited to talk about this topic. I think one of the reasons I'm excited about what AI can bring to our industry is that industry surveys suggest that a large proportion or almost the majority of our time is spent actually on the administration and business part of the business rather than the coaching, which is the bit we absolutely love. So it's been absolutely amazing to see what the tools can do to alleviate that administrative burden so we can spend more time on the coaching.
Excellent. So why don't you just jump in? First, give us a couple minutes on what to watch out for and then what to do.
Okay. Well, I think one thing we're all aware of as coaches is confidentiality is key. And so it's really important to choose which environment you're working on and making sure that you're actually using the environment that keeps that confidentiality. So if you're putting client notes or anything into any AI solution, make sure it's in an enterprise style environment, which has a firewall. So for example, Google has this Google Enterprise environment where you can actually make sure that nothing comes out of this walled garden of your business. But you can also make sure that you anonymize things, take out any personally identifiable information, just to make sure that you are sure that anything you upload is not going outside of that. But the other key piece is to make sure that you're using any settings that prevent the tool using your data to train any of the AI models, the large language models. So
Yeah.
the great news is that AI is designed to have your privacy in mind from the beginning if you're using the right tool.
Right. And so if you use ChatGPT, for example, 4.0, 5.0, whatever point oh there is now, it's automatically keeps you from large language models using you. So that's just to start. Now, with that in mind, why don't you kind of walk us through some of the basics and then some of the more in-depth approaches and things you can use.
Okay. So from a basics perspective, I think the quick productivity productivity things that you can use AI for is you can actually use it for improving emails or helping you to write emails. So for example, if you've got to write a challenging email saying, this is my price increase, for example, but I want it to be polite but firm. Oh, sorry, I'm seeing that some people are saying that there are audio issues, Carol.
Yes, well, we can do nothing about that, so we will just trust.
We'll continue.
Maybe it would
Okay.
help if we talk a little slower in case of that.
Okay.
Oh, somebody says, okay.
Okay, we can hear. Thank you for those who say you can hear. Thank you. So those who are looking for that efficiency, you can use things like Gemini in Gmail or Gemini app separately to help you with those email polishing and tone changes. You can actually use it for checking jargon. So, I've just had this meeting, I've got all these questions, all this jargon, you can check those. But one of the things you can also do is use it for tone checking. So I want to communicate this piece of information. So it can help you with changing the tone and change the tone of your email and play with it and see how it comes through. So those are kind of the basic simple ones.
So I have a CEO who uses that regularly because he's very brusque. So he'll just jot out his email and then say, warm it up, and then send it.
Fab. And then one of the other things that we've also got is, as an industry, we're often asked to kind of give me 100 words of how you operate as a coach. And we've got many, many different bios that we've used for different audiences. So one of the things you can do is create a prompt that you would put into, say, Gemini or ChatGPT, and you'd go in and say, I am going to be speaking at conference X. I need to provide a bio. Here are my 3 previous bios. please create a bio that will communicate X, Y, Z in this tone with no more than 100 words. And it will take your previous content and generate that for you.
Oh, that's great. And so then it will know the business and then can also kind of tilt it to be like if it's for education, maybe one way, if it's for a high tech company, another way. And so it will adjust the words based on that.
Yes, based on your prompt. So the key here with a prompt is treat the prompt as if you had a teammate and you had to debrief all the context to your teammate and say, would you mind helping me with this? So the prompt needs to give clear context, clear information about the tone that you would like, the length that you would like, and the target audience. The more information that you can give, the higher the quality of the information that you get back. And one added tip is you can actually also get what they've found, researchers found, is the politer you are and to the AI, the higher quality responses that you actually get.
That is so hysterical that if you basically say thank you and please, it's going to give you better content. I mean, that's
I've got into the habit. I have got into the habit of saying, that's great, thank you. Really like this bit, kind of telling them which bit you want to keep, and then have a look at, I would like to change this tone. So that's something that's found very useful.
Yeah, I would like, I don't know if you would want to do it now or later to talk a little more about prompts, because a friend of mine who's writing a book described how the Gemini, I think it was, or ChatGPT, I don't remember, just did this incredible work at smoothing out. And I'm like, what did you ask it? That like, this is fabulous. And literally she said, well, I asked it, I said, this and that. She goes, and I'd like you to smooth out my transitions. My paragraphs seem a little bit jolty or something. And it did. So just the idea, I never would have thought to say that. And it does mean you need to understand what you need. And the more you understand what you need and communicate it, the more custom made the answer is. That's what I think I'm hearing from you.
Absolutely. You have to know the context and give it the context, and you have to give it the kind of boundaries. And at the same time, one of the beauties of AI is when I often start, I think, right, what do I want from this? And I reflect, and then I put it in, and I'm saying, and then I ask the question, what would be a great prompt structure for me to use to get the best out of you? And the AI will actually give you a suggestion of a prompt structure.
Oh my goodness.
And you can then use that as a baseline and build on it and tweak it and then put it back in with the relevant information.
I love that.
So that's, I think, where I've learned a lot is actually using AI to teach me how to prompt and improve my prompts as I go along.
I'm going to do that. I've not done that yet.
Yeah, it's very powerful, and it's useful to move from tool to tool. So one of the things to think about is, I know I'm using Gemini or I'm using ChatGPT or whichever one it is, and I'm using it a lot, but is it the best tool? So what I often do is I go, right, this is the use case that I want for my business. So for example, I want to create marketing content based on my brand. Here is all my brand content that I've got. Which are the tools that will allow me to generate the best LinkedIn posts or the best slides or the best audio podcast or all these things? And then asking AI, which are the best AI tools to use? And it can then guide you as to which the right tools are for the use case. So for example, one of the features that you have is Notebook LM. And Notebook LM, you can actually upload your historic database of content that you have created over the years as a coach. Upload it all into Notebook LM. It stays within your boundary of that notebook. And then you can click on something and say, which generates a video summarizing the content or an audio podcast of two people discussing your content. You can also create, if you're about to go into a meeting with someone and you just need a refresher and you're walking, create yourself a 5-minute audio overview of a specific topic that you want a refresher on. So you can use AI to identify which is the best tool for this situation. and then go and use that and use your content in a way to create the right output for you.
Mm-hmm. I'm now thinking of, like, forgive the loose association. I'm now thinking of that Escher drawing where one hand is drawing the other. So this is completely news to me, that you can use AI to triage what AI is most helpful for you. And why I love that is many of us are sort of overwhelmed. So the idea that the AI can help you do that is fabulous. Now,
Yes.
Heidi Werther, hi Heidi, just said, can you repeat the name of the
Sure.
notebook?
Notebook LM. So it's one of
L.
the Google products, and it's just transformational. It really is, because it becomes your own personal library, your own personal research, and it's just looking at your content. So it's not accessing the World Wide Web around you, but you can actually pin into it. You can pin links to specific video content. So you can pin a YouTube link in. You can take research papers or news articles and say, use this as well. And then you can direct it. Actually, one of the things I will say is there's another tool, which is deep research. You can direct it to use some of the outputs that you've created from deep research. So if you go into Gemini, there is a tool called deep research, which you can select. And this has been a game changer, because this is where you can look and research across multiple articles, all your content and the web, for articles, scholarly papers, white papers, journals, everything. And you can actually set it to work in the background. So you can create a prompt saying, I want to run let's say a team coaching session on what is required of leadership in the next 2 years. I would like to understand what all journals and what all white papers and news articles from eminent scholarly places. So you say you want a McKinsey article, or you want Harvard Business Review, or something from the Institute of Coaching, and say bring in all the articles from these sources and others, and write a white paper for me on what I need to know about this topic. You can say, I would like it to be 5 pages long with an exec summary. I'd like it in bullet point form. And I'd like you to cite all the sources so that I can follow up for each one. And you can just set that off, and it might take maybe 20 minutes, maybe less, maybe half an hour, depends how rigorous the prompt is. And then it will come back with a white paper written for you with sources linked for every single one. And it allows you to then free your mind up to go, okay, which of these 25 articles that I could be reading are most useful? Where do I want to pull the sources from? And then you could pinpoint that source and go, okay, Gemini, I want to know about this source in more detail. Tell me which are the right spaces. Which part of this book should I be looking at? Some books may be available, some not. Depends if they've got accessible or not. But it will allow you to then have your own research analyst and save time and be more targeted. And I think this is the key thing about AI. It's not taking away the work that your brain is doing. It's allowing your brain to work on the higher order articles. So instead of the time finding content, reading it all and analyzing and working out, it does that for you. And you can then go, okay, with my time that I have, I can now put it to my highest and best use and extract the content from this that I want to deep dive into and build my knowledge in.
So it's really like your private research assistant. So you need to direct that assistant to find the research for you, but you think of it as your research assistant. So I was telling you earlier, I got an email yesterday, and the title of the email was Claude is Brilliant. And what it is a former client of mine, this really brilliant, eccentric guy, decided he wanted a dream analysis. So he would put in just a few lines about his dream and then said, I would like this from a psychoanalytic, an Adlerian, a positive psychology, a Gestalt psychology, Jungian psychology, etc., interpretations. And so it provided really good dream interpretations from these different theoretical perspectives. And I could see doing something like that, like we put in some of our case, and then say, could you analyze this case from these different theoretical perspectives, and and suggest coaching questions based on those, and it just such richness, like almost using it for coaching supervision.
Absolutely. And I think that's the thing, is that as coaches, we are often by ourselves or in small groups, and we don't have a large team behind us. And so having that collaboration partner to go, I've got this idea, how can I think about this differently, and bounce ideas off it in that way. And then what am I missing? What do I not know? So
Wow.
helping you kind of think things through in a different way. That's the really useful piece, which is sometimes I actually just say, okay, these are all the things I'm thinking of. What can I do, or what am I missing? And one of the research pieces that's been done, I haven't got it to mind now, but I can always dig it up after,
You
has
can ask
shown that
AI, yes.
yes, I can ask AI afterwards. Yes, one of the research shown is that if you use your brain first and then AI, it's going to be more impactful than AI then brain. So don't think about, I'm just going to go straight in without having thought about it, because it is useful to take that time and reflect. What is it that I'm looking for? What do I know? What do I not know? And then you can use that to feed it, and you will get better answers out of AI for having done that initial thinking. And there are times when you just got mind blank. It's the end of the day. You just need something quick. And then you go, I'm stuck. This is the situation. What should I do? However, the quality of the output that you will get will reflect the quality of what you put in. So you may get a more vanilla response if you're not as
Yeah.
thoughtful with the prompt that you put in.
Oh, yeah. Because I did that once. I put in a chapter that I had written, and I just put in some very generic prompt, and I got something that could have just been in a self-help magazine or whatever. It was like very uninteresting. And then I asked it a bunch of other things. What actually worked the best, it's a little embarrassing, is I said, please write this up as a novel. And it wrote it up as fiction, which is like, and Carol thought about this and that, and then said to her client, blah, blah, blah. But it really, really did show that that what you say is what you can get. Couple of questions. All right. So one is one just came in. I'll read first because it's about a friend of mine. So Caroline Devaney said MIT research found that Deb Ancona was talking about it on LinkedIn recently. Deborah is amazing. She's the one who wrote the really famous HBR article on the I forget the first word, in defense of the incomplete leader and the MIT4 capabilities. So if you guys want to track her down on LinkedIn, you can be guaranteed what she says is going to be quite smart. So that's aside. The other person says that they used AI. Patrick Donadio used AI to help me prepare for my podcast appearances. Upload the podcast title, link to the podcast page and your topic, and then it'll help you prepare for a podcast.
Yeah, it's giving it that context again. It's really amazing how it can pull content out of audio. It can pull content from a video and from text, and really can then take it and help guide you. I want to mention also, you've got a lot of different AI tools that can help you with role play and practice. So if you are preparing for something like a podcast, you've got things like Udly or Second Nature, where you can actually go in and create a bot that will represent who you want to practice with, and you can then role play and get feedback on it. So that can be useful if, as a coach, you want to practice your coaching and get feedback. You can train it with specific frameworks that you'd like to practice. Or it's useful if you want to use it with your clients. If you want to send your clients home and say, right, we've practiced this live. I'm going to send you to go and practice this in between, and then we can reflect together on how that went. So it's a really useful structure. And we can also use Gemini Live to have conversations and practice. And you can inform Gemini Live and say, Gemini, I would like you to play the role of this really tough CEO who doesn't actually listen, and she is often wanting me to just agree with her. How do I navigate that? And then you will practice that with Gemini Live, and Gemini Live can take that role. Or you can play it with someone who's very emotional. You say, please play an emotional kind of character, and understand how to practice that coaching in that space. So there are a few different scenarios that you can play with different tools.
Okay. One, fabulous. Number two, wish we had an hour. Number three, can you describe, like, let's say I'm going, oh, wow, Daniella, that's a fabulous idea. Gemini role play, whatever. How would I do that? Or Udely, how do you get them? How do you get those guys?
Great. So I so that I was prepared for this, I actually had a look, and anyone can sign up to Udely, and there's just a license cost per person.
How do you spell Udely?
YOODLI.
Not at all what I thought. Let's try this.
Yes.
YOODLI.
DLI.
Udely.
You've also got Second Nature.
What is Second Nature? Is that
sorry,
also?
It's a different company.
Okay.
Different company, different offering. There are other tools that can help you to practice coaching as well. There's Run Yourself coaching is another one. So Run Yourself, I can't remember this at the end of it. I will check afterwards. So Run Yourself is another one. But all of these tools help you to practice and get feedback using AI. I've seen that there's a question that's popped up about what pitfalls should be aware of, and I want to talk a little bit about these pitfalls of using these tools, which is there is a challenge that you can get so dependent on AI that you actually represent it as your work, and it is very clear that it isn't your work. So I think this is one of the things that I want to just kind of call out, which is that it's important that no matter where the content is coming from, where it is coming from AI, it's important to make sure that you are checking it and making sure it is representing exactly what you believe and your words. Because we have seen people represent their work and say, oh, this is what I've put together. And it's not as good. So I'd say this is where the practice and the use of it is really important, but don't depend on it to be your voice without checking it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. What's your favorite I used AI and this happened story for yourself?
I think the favorite one I have is where we wanted to show an impact, the journey that we have been on. And what we did is we took what was 25 different documents of content and said, can you summarize the journey we've been on? So I'm thinking from a coaching perspective, it might be you're working for a client for years, an organization, and you're about to go in and you've got to pitch to refresh it for the next year, for example. And so you can say, right, this is what we've done. This is what we've done over the past 4 years. Upload it, say, summarize the progress and the evolution.
Oh, I want to do this. I want to do this right now.
I
would do that. What tool would I use to do that?
So you can use either deep research with your own content or Notebook LM. Or you can create I'd say that would be the ones I would use. So I would use Notebook LM, upload it, and then say, I want you to create for me a narrative of what each year has looked like, what we've achieved. So what our goals were, what we achieved, what the impact. And then the beauty of it is then go, knowing the past 4 years, what would you recommend the next 3-year strategy would be, or the next 1-year strategy would be? And then you can bring in external sources if you were using deep research, or if you're using Notebook LM, you could say, based on Carol Kauffman's writing and the Institute of Coaching, or all these different papers that you would bring in, what would you recommend the next 1-year strategy would be? And then you can use that as a collaboration partner. So I think that's been the transformative thing, which is instead of spending time finding and reading and synthesizing, you're actually doing the higher order task again. Okay, well, this is what I've done over the past 4 years. It's given me something which is 70% there. It's not 100%, 70% there. So it's done the grunt work for the 70%. Now I'm going to take it and polish it to make it to the 100% and really make it reach what the end user needs. I'm going to ask for space for one more story, actually, from a coach perspective.
Good. Yes.
The other story I'd say is when you're designing team coaching agendas.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're doing a team transformation piece of work, you've got your tools that you normally use, that you'd like, you've been trained on. Again, you can say, right, knowing these frameworks, here is the example scenario I've got for my client. I have 3 days. I've got the time from 9:30 till 5 with an hour lunch, 2 20-minute breaks. Whereas in a room with 20 people and it's table and chairs kind of in the round style, what would you propose the agenda should be? And give me speaking notes and give me links to the sources of the content that I've previously used.
Wow.
And it will structure the whole thing for you. However, this is the bit where we stay very relevant and important. We have to read it and we have to pick out the bits that make sense. And then we have to show up in the room and we have to adapt and adjust to what's happening in the room, listen to what's going on, the body language, the tone, the interactions. And then we have to adapt on our feet. You cannot deliver just what comes out of the machine. It will not be as impactful as your experience showing up on that day, but it's a great starting point to help you.
That's great. By the way, just a call out to Michael Cullen. Thank you for sharing all these links. I believe so this is going to be on, since it's live, except for those of you who are watching it post, then it's dead. But I believe the chat comments with these links will be there also so that you can find some of these things. And then Austin, who's our controller, he can also put things in that link so that you can find these things. I love that one of my clients put in her diary and asked the diary, what should I do? What should I do with my life? And it had its own ideas that were not bad.
It's definitely changing the way I manage my life on a daily basis. And it's allowing me to be more present in the moment because the administrative piece is being removed.
That's great. So Michael, thank you again, Michael Cullen, wherever you are. He has talked about a book by another friend of mine, so thanks for that. Jonathan Passmore, who is a coach and a scholar in London. And he's written a book, which I didn't know, rather embarrassingly, called The Digital and AI Coach's Handbook, the complete guide to the use of online AI and technology in coaching. Again, by Jonathan Passmore, Passmore. A very reputable, high-end person. So you'll be able to trust what he has to say. So Daniella, we only have like a minute or two left. What are your last kind of words or hopes for us as coaches of how we can befriend AI rather than be afraid of it?
I think when we approach our clients, we are taught to approach every situation with curiosity. And I think that's how we have an opportunity to approach AI, with curiosity. We are trained to ask open questions and explore with our clients. I think that's the mindset that we use with AI, which is go in with curiosity and an opportunity to look at it as an enabler, and it will open up your opportunities and possibilities to how you show up as a coach. And the second piece I'd say is play. See it as fun. It is play is core to everything in our lives, in bringing the fun. So just play, have fun, Don't take it too seriously, and see what happens when you play and approach it with curiosity.
So this has been absolutely fabulous. So I think there's going to be just a few follow-up questions. And how can people reach you?
Happy for anyone to connect with me on LinkedIn or click follow, and I will try and respond to any questions. I am always curious to learn. I am not here in any way as the eminent expert on this. I'm here as someone who just loves using these tools, and who's passionate about coaching and has found it as a way to supercharge the way I operate. So I want to pass these forward as many people pass things on to me. And a lot of these are where I would love to learn from everyone else as well. So feel free to share your top tips and ask questions, and I will endeavor to get back to them.
Thank you. So everybody, thank you for joining us. Glad that you are here and got to experience a few minutes with Daniella.
Thank you, Carol, for having me.